Welcome back to this episode of Across the Bifrost. This is an emergence-ode. 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 We have stats in for the WTC for 2025, and so we wanted to quickly get an episode out to talk about that. And with me to give us the North American perspective is one of the best players in... Gosh, is Canada still a sovereign nation, or is it the United States yet? It's hard to keep up.
You'd have to ask them. They're the ones crazy over there.
Well, let's say he's still part of Canada. This is the one and only VodkaBlitz. Hiya, buddy.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Good to have you on. Vodka is one of the premier players in Canada and is part of the Montreal Shark Tank and also runs a blog. Tell us the URL of that blog.
Yeah, the blog is mcpfirstclass.blogspot.com. I am running an X-Men themed blog focusing on strategy type, strategy information, and like just how to play X-Men in general.
Okay, cool. Excellent. And the reason we're having you on is not only do you know the game very well, but you are actually going to be attending the WTC. And in fact, this isn't your first time around, is it?
No, this is going to be our second year. Unfortunately for Canada, we couldn't make it the first year around, but I think we had a very strong debut last year with all our teams making it to the top 10.
Yeah, cool. Excellent. I think that's amazing. What was the name of your team back then last year?
We were the Montreal Shark Tank as well. I think we finished, I want to say, somewhere in the top 8, if I remember correctly.
Okay, cool. And
so it was great finish for us.
Yeah, for first time out, that is pretty amazing. And this year you're coming, is it the same 5 people on the team?
No, we are 3 out of the same 5. We had to had Mercs this year, but next year we're probably going to be back in force with a hopefully full Montreal team.
Nice one. Okay, cool. All right, everybody. If you want to follow along on what we're going to be talking about, you want to go to Longshanks, and the event number is 28271, also known as MCP WTC 2025. Okay, so let's tell us a little bit about what the event is, if people aren't familiar with it. Then we'll talk a little bit about your team and how you prepared for it. We can talk a bit about mine as well. And then we'll talk about the stats that have just recently been published by the organizers after everybody's put in their lists and had them locked. So the WTC is a World Team Championship. So this is where teams of 5 players from various nations get together with sometimes supplements from other nations, and hence the mercenary type of designation. But it's only 1 or 2 players of the 5 that can be a mercenary. And so we have teams coming from all around Europe, in the United States, and Canada together. And this is the third year, right? Third edition that's being run. It is being run in Copenhagen, in Denmark, and the dates are October 25th and 26th, and so that's just basically a week away. 2 weeks away. And the interesting thing about this format is, first of all, it's a team tournament, so it's regular Swiss as far as the teams are concerned, but within the team, no character can be replicated across the 5 players. However, you can have the same... You can share crises and tactics cards without restriction. And then lastly, there is a kind of a pairing process involved where you put down it's more complicated than we need to talk about right now, but you put down a couple of rosters. The other team gets to pick one through a mechanism. The team that doesn't pick gets to pick which table to play on, and that kind of system passes back and forth. So there's a bit of strategy involved as to how to make those pairings happen, such that you either get a very favorable matchup or you try to steamroll. You throw somebody under the bus, basically, into somebody who's going to do really well, and that way kind of soak up that person's potential. And so there's a bit of a mini game on top of it. But after that, it's normal MCP, and we play with chess clocks. Is that a fair summary, or would you like to add something?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair description. Like for the pairing process, you can essentialize it as like basically picking matchups or tables. So like a team is going to pick 3 of the matchups. The other team is going to pick 3 of the tables to try to edge their advantages. And then you try to fight the pairing process as you've described. So like that's basically it. So even the team without prio has at least some form of say in how they pair and what table they play on.
Right. And the key thing is that the organizers have committed to try to make the spread of terrain across those 5 tables quite different. And hence, so some will be quite heavy with terrain, some will be normal, some will be quite light. And so therefore, it makes it an advantage to be able to pick tables. It isn't just like a perfectly...
there's definitely a real strategic element to it. Like last year's was really good because you could pick like your team that even though they didn't have the best matchup that had a lot of throw, you could put them into a team that was light on throws and try to leverage the table from there.
Cool. And you were the captain last year?
Yeah, and this year as well.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So tell us a little bit about how you approach the pairing process and some of the peculiarities of it when it comes to the strategy for it.
Okay, so from the get-go, at least on our team, I tried not to like put too much time into spreadsheets for the sake of my team, even though I love doing spreadsheets myself. So we basically run a streetlight system. So like red is bad, yellow is mid, green is good.
Right.
So we do that for like basically every affiliation, and so we know roughly, at least at a glance, what matchups are good and bad for roughly everyone on our teams based on the opposing affiliation and or tech pieces. Mm-hmm. So we try to leverage that and try to pair people into either good or mid matchup, and then let player skill take it home.
Yeah. Okay. So did you find bussing people to be a viable strategy, really? Or because I know like Patrick Dunford, for instance, thinks it isn't actually a worthwhile pursuit.
Yeah, I don't think it's worthwhile. I think you have to be confident in both your team and players. And I feel like, yes, there are those like really big star players like Patrick Dunford whose win rates are just like obscenely good. And you just have to try to edge your bets and like put as favorable of a matchup as you can. Because in the end, like it's only one game out of 5, right? So bussing someone is like it's a calculated risk. I'm personally not a fan of it unless like that matchup is bad for the whole team, which is something like, in my opinion, should at least try to anticipate in roster construction for your 5 players team.
Yeah. So at the risk of inflating my ego, VodkaBlitz, I'm, it could be said, very middling player at best. Like if I go even overall for the year or even at an event, I'm very happy. And that's basically where I'm at for many years. On the other hand, I did take down Mike DeLuca at the WTC. Nice. I took down Chorborn at the UK Nations last year. I took down Pat Dunford this year at the UK Nations. So, my point in saying that is that's not to humble brag. But the point is it does happen. It does happen.
You always have to edge your bets. Like the game's not over until it's over. And sometimes, yes, you need like a few lucky rolls in a row. But if you don't try them, you're never going to get them.
That's right. You lose every game you don't play.
Exactly.
So yeah, I've come around to Pat's thinking on the bussing situation, although it's very tempting sometimes to do it that way. Because it certainly makes the calculations for the captain a bit easier, you know what I mean? But and what about the idea? Okay, you mentioned spreadsheets, of course, which is I think what you're referring to is people actually sometimes go down to the team level to see like who would be good into playing into each other. Yeah. But when it came to roster constructions amongst your team, did you think about like, are we covering all the blind spots that we're going to have when it comes to the current meta monsters come October?
I have a very different approach to this when like I'm thinking about a team group, because it's still like for any large event, that's true not just for WTC, but for me it's doubly so for team events, is that we're still playing a miniatures game. Like there's no big money on the line. Like we're playing for bragging rights, essentially. So with that in mind, we're out there to have fun. We're obviously trying to win. Like the aim of the event is to try to win it. But I feel our best chances of winning are to play something all the players are comfortable playing and will make fewer mistakes with.
Yeah.
So I'd rather play a like B+ or B tier team if I know the player is going to make few to no mistakes, as opposed to playing the top tier team, middlingly well as like you can expect when you see the top meta lists and meta monsters. Like you go in assuming people will be ready for those matchups and those teams and those pairings. So they're gonna bring as many tools as they can to counter you. So if you don't master your list as well, in addition to facing people who have techs and tools specifically tailored against you, I feel playing a list that's quote unquote suboptimal, but still like functioning and well put together and just like cohesive and coherent, gives you a better chance of winning your pairing and your matchups as forcing an affiliation or list that you're not piloting super well, even though it's on paper stronger.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Especially if you add in how much practice do you have with that roster, that usually weighs out a lot more. And furthermore, I think there's a bit of dark horse element that you could introduce into the game as well. Everybody's teching for the top monsters, and if you show up with the so-called middling roster but play it really well, people are just not going to be practiced into it, and that could give you an advantage.
That's something we definitely do a lot in Montreal. Like we're overall big fan of dark horsing and just playing like B plus list and affiliations like to their maximum. And I think sometimes it gives us an edge into certain matchups or pairings where people are very inexperienced or don't think it's a bad matchup for them when we've practiced it a lot. And in our experience, we found that like it's been a very, very good matchup, surprisingly, for X or Y.
Yeah. I totally agree. All right, let's dig deeper into your team. We'll talk about mine, and then we'll get into the overall event stats afterwards. So you are representing Canada as the Montreal Shark Tank. You're one of two Canadian teams, which is nice. The other one, I suppose, is not the French-Canadian. Is that right?
No, they're from the prairies for the most part.
The prairies. Okay. Okay. I never heard that before. That's really fun. Okay.
So, like in Canada, what the US calls flyover country, so basically like the middle part of the US and Canada, they're called the prairies because they're mostly like flat farmlands.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. No, I totally understand it, but I never heard that before. That would just totally make sense. Okay. I'm super pleased. Let me quickly call out, though, that one of your mercs is the great Mike Dembois from Strike Better podcast. Yeah. So I'll be able to meet him. I think I met him at Adepticon, at least briefly.
That would be very possible. He's a super nice guy. He's played a lot for Pork Roll Protocol for our friends and rivals from the eastern seaboard of the US. So because we had like two locals who couldn't make it this year due to like real life taking over and just like large events, we had to bring in two mercs. So Mike Dembois is his first time at WTC. I'm from Pork Roll, and Dustin, who was the captain of the UN team last year.
Right.
Who I've dojoed with a lot before, so he was somebody we knew and we played with, so he was easy to onboard as well.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm just checking where he's California. Okay,
he's in California, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Okay, cool. Yes, I know Dustin. Yeah, he was really cool to come along as Team UN last year, so that's excellent. And then alongside you from Canada is Nick Menard and Nicholas Rattel.
Rattel, yeah. Both returning from last year.
Amazing. Okay. So tell us about how you... So I'll quickly mention the affiliations that you brought along. So Simon, you are bringing X-Men. Of course, you've been playing them for a very long time. Not a big surprise. Nick's bringing Avengers. Nicholas is bringing Midnight Suns. Dustin is bringing the Criminal Syndicate. And Mike is bringing Inhumans, which he's been cranking out games on pretty hard. Yeah. So I would say all of these are the current meta monsters, except for Midnight Sun, which is probably just the category just below the current meta monsters. So tell us a bit about how you guys decided to, and obviously you just said you were playing things that you like to play, but how did these particular factions come together?
So some of them came on really early and haven't really changed. So like Mike Dembois has been repping Inhumans for like months on end before he even got on our team for WTC. So that was like very easy for him to just keep playing Inhumans. For Nick Rattel, he hasn't played the game for a very long time. Like he started playing MCP, I want to say like 3 or 4 months before WTC last year. So the only models he owns are Midnight Suns. So that again like makes it a very straightforward, a very easy choice to play, as like that's the only thing he's played. So for myself, Nick Menard, and Dustin, we've tried different things, and we ended up settling on X-Men Avengers and CS, which, like, I think most of our affiliations are probably some you would think as a big meta boogeyman. But if you break down the Avengers list and my own list, you're gonna see like that we are not playing what are the currently quote unquote established iterations of those lists, like X-Men, at least for WTC and for the past few months, has mostly been a duel with Apocalypse or Charles Xavier. So that's the X-Men version of the list that's been performing the best. That's not at all what I'm playing. Same for Nick Menard, who's on Avengers. He is playing Steve 3 and not Steve 1.
I'm just looking. You also in your list have King Black Bolt, which people are saying has been criminally underappreciated.
So I would definitely agree.
Excellent. Okay, and so the fun part. First of all, tell us when the team came together. About how long ago do you think?
So after last year, we knew we wanted to go back. So we started talking with our locals and just like getting up all the people to form a team of locals, because we have a pretty active local meta. On game nights, we usually have somewhere between like 10 and 16 players. So it's a good pool of players from who are mostly on the competitive side of things. But we initially had 5 Montrealers, but 2 couldn't go due to like real life getting in the way. So we had to make some substitutions like a few weeks before the deadline for team submissions. And we knew, because of the nature of team events, like we want to play with our friends, with people we know we can hang out with and just like are comfortable playing with. So we reach out to Protocols, and Mike was more than happy to come and join us, as their own Porkroll team was already filled with the same 5 players as last year. Which is understandable. So we took him in. And when we reached out to some individual players who either from Canada, from the US, who we've met, who we knew were either interested in WTC or we could play with in a team event setting. And Dustin was very happy to oblige here.
Wonderful. Okay, but it sounds like it's only been, a month since you've all been assembled?
Oh, no, it was before the the payment deadline. So it was in March or April. So we've had time to work together, at least.
Okay, that's what I'm driving at. Okay, so you've had time. So tell us then about the big thing about teams is, first of all, picking the affiliations in part by what people want to play, but also in part in considering what's strong in the meta. Yeah. We talked about that a bit, but the other fun part about it then is once that's kind of locked in, then it's the horse trading that goes on for splashes. Yeah. So tell us about your journey with that aspect of the team tournament.
So that was definitely interesting, and in my experience, is usually interwoven with the affiliations you're picking. For instance, on the table for myself was definitely Apocalypse, because he's been extremely strong. He's very easy to deal with at a team event. But we had a few contested models for at least Mike and Nick Menard, who knew he was going to be in Avengers fairly early on, and Mike on Inhumans. So he really wanted Toad there, which is also a key piece for Apocalypse, and Nick Menard really wanted Beast, which is also a key piece for Apocalypse. So that restricted choices as well. In addition to Voodoo going to Nick Rattal for Midnight Suns, it made Storm X-Men at least kind of awkward, so I had to explore and find other options. So realistically on the table were left X-Men and CS for myself, because I'm usually an affiliation specialist. I don't tend to play everything. So that was definitely the limiting factor for my team. So I ended up setting up on X-Men. Dustin experimented a lot trying to figure out a team he could play that wouldn't have a lot of models conflicting with the rest, and
Yeah.
he ended up on Criminal Syndicate playing both Kingpin and Shadowlands.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I think it's fair to say if the listeners could take away from the fact that there is a really fun aspect of developing the overall team because of this character restriction.
Yeah, it definitely makes for interesting puzzles and like trying to solve problems. And a lot of it, in my experience, is figuring out, okay, if you don't have access to maybe your first pick or second pick for a specific role you want in your list, who's your like second, third, or fourth best model to do that job, right?
Yeah.
And exploring your options, trying to prioritize this as well. And because of the nature of team event, you don't need to be as well rounded as singles. Like you can protect a player
Yes.
from certain matchups. So
Mm-hmm.
that was definitely one of my big lessons from WTC last year is like trying to feed tech pieces for one matchup to a specific team was definitely not something we had to do, as we can just shield a player from certain matchups if we want, as
Right.
long as like not everyone has that same matchup they want to dodge. You can always play to the pairings instead and distribute your tech more accordingly, or like in prioritize better certain models.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And the other part of it is that I found that you also sometimes can find an all-comers team. In other
Yeah,
words, somebody who's happy with, or two, if you're lucky, two people who are happy to take on almost anything, or essentially anything, and those
yeah,
become really interesting flex pieces or pieces you put down initially to be able to soak up any kind of this lopsidedness that you just described.
yeah, for sure.
Hmm. Okay, but it seems like then there's the next level. So that is definitely a good strategy about finding the second tier, maybe third tier type of character to replace the one you can't that you really want. But you talked about a second tier of it, the next level change, which is to really force yourself to think about how to play the affiliation differently, and hence not need to take second or third tier characters, but
Yeah,
play maybe in a way that's not quote unquote normal.
yeah, like deviate from the standard. And I think Nick Menard and I are players who, not to toot my own horn, are usually pretty good at this, like deviating from the norm and exploring different ways of playing certain affiliations. Like for instance, he's the only one playing Steve 3 in the whole WTC,
Wow.
and we do think he's as strong as Steve 1 in the current meta, at least for team events. So we're going to be looking forward to see if that is hubris or justified.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, that's great. But I mean, like I said, part of it'll be dark horse as well, so it'll be interesting.
Yep.
Okay, to quickly come on to my dear team, we are playing for England, of course, and our team is called the L Force. And Andrea Severia is the captain. He'll be playing Inhumans, which is no surprise. He has been on the show once to talk about how to play Inhumans, and he has an Inhumans blog as well, which now the name escapes me, unfortunately. And so he'll be our captain. There's me. I'm playing Criminals, which is a
Yeah.
Kingpin and Daredevil kind of a roster. And then we have John Excel, who has settled on Wakanda. It took a long time to come along to that. He tried a lot of different things once a number of us have had locked in. And then there's a fun father-son combo coming. Pete Woodruff and his son Thomas are coming. Pete's playing Apocalypse, and Tom is playing a slept-on affiliation, in my humble opinion, which is Guardians.
We're going to talk about Guardians when it comes to stats, because I think there's something interesting that comes up for WTC regarding Guardians.
Okay, cool. So, as you can see here, I mean, Andrea was a lock. He plays Inhumans. That's all he pretty much does. I spent all year, which I love doing, by the way, after the last WTC. Every month I play an affiliation in the shop and then go to a tournament with it, basically. And I just swap affiliations as I think, which was going to be the next big thing in the meta. What is something I haven't played before? And I just get to explore that way. So I was bouncing around quite a bit over the course of the year, going to some big events with all kinds of things. I played Asgard. I played X-Men. I played Inhumans. I did play Inhumans for a bit. I forget what else, but all kinds of stuff. And it was great. But I ended up going to Criminal Syndicate because I started to see how strong Kingpin was again, especially with some of the new tools that came his way. And I just love playing Mephisto. Mephisto's just such a
such a fun model.
Fun model, exactly. And so I settled into that. Pete, I think he changed a little bit along the way, but he settled quite early into Apocalypse. And so what's nice about this is that those three affiliations, like you were alluding to before, have a lot of pieces that don't overlap terribly much in many cases. And so then it was left like, what are the other guys going to play? Thomas likes attrition a lot. And so Guardians has been his go-to for some time. I think he was playing around with another attrition roster, but he switched to Guardians. Again, not a lot of overlap. And then so John was kind of filling in the gaps. He took the longest to lock in. He saw what everybody else was kind of saying, look, I want to settle on this. And so tried some other different things. And that's how he ended up with Wakanda.
Yeah. That's fair.
But even still, we still had to horse trade pieces. Shang-Chi, of course, was one that we kind of debated.
She's definitely a very coveted piece, as I assume as Zemo 1.
Yeah, Zemo 1. Bullseye, believe it or not, was part of the horse trading. And who else was I thinking? But those are the three that come to mind. Yeah. But yeah, it was fun. Like between the exploring different affiliations part of the journey, and then also the horse trading part about it. It was it's one of the great parts of playing on a team.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely an underrated and super entertaining part of playing large team events like WTC.
Yeah, cool. All right. Any other thoughts you want to have about your team or how they're preparing to play?
Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to be there. Like, we're getting closer and closer every day, so it's going to be a hoot.
Yeah, exactly. When do you guys show up, actually? The event is starts sort of like Friday night. That's when everybody socializes, and then it's all day Saturday and Sunday.
Most of us are going to be there a couple days earlier, just because of like jet lag, and we're coming from so far away that to make it worthwhile, we usually spend a few days in Europe anyways, beforehand and afterwards.
Yep. Makes sense. What are your plans this time?
I'll be spending probably a few days on mainland Europe after the event. Go do some sightseeing, some wine drinking, and enjoy the good times.
Excellent. All right, everybody. We're going to go get into the stats, which you've been probably tuning in for. And we have 32 teams playing. 32 teams being played at the event. So it's 160 players, and probably the largest event of MCP. In the world. And I'm just taking a look now at the different countries that are coming. This goes by players.
It goes by players,
which is a little annoying. I'm going to instead look at the teams themselves. So we have a team from Austria, Belgium, the United States is bringing one, maybe two?
Two teams. They have a New York team as well.
Okay, so it's a Pork Roll Protocol and then a New York team. Yeah, Team NYC, exactly. Yep. Sweden is bringing a fair number of teams, 3 or 4, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, something like that.
England's bringing 5 teams this time, which is amazing. Canada bringing 2.
Yeah.
I'm just going down the list. There's another Belgian team.
2 Polish teams, 1 Irish at least, 2 Belgian teams. The Portuguese are here this year, which is nice.
Yes, they're new, which is great.
Yeah. 1 French team. There's a Danish team. Yeah.
So
teams from all over Europe.
The Icelandic people are sending their team along again. Finland. I think we said Italy. Scotland.
All the Scots.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Team UN. So we had to put United Nations team is put together when we have an odd number of teams coming, and so rather than having a bye, we kind of have an open team that can come from any nationality to try to even things out, and so that'll be Team UN this year. I think we had one last year as well, so similar. But I think the point stands is that you get to meet people from all different types of nations here. And there's loads of time built into the schedule for socializing, both between games, but also in the evenings. Like I said, Friday night is a fantastic time. It's so much fun meeting everybody again. Tell us some of your experiences Friday nights.
Oh yeah, it's always super fun to meet people who you mostly interact, like if you're playing on TTS or have discussions with. I know like everyone and their mother is talking to Connor Rooney.
Yeah.
Um, so like being able to like grab a beer and hang out, like even with you last year as well.
Yeah.
Just meeting a lot of great people, sharing like the same hobby space is just a really awesome experience.
Cool. All right, let's get down into the affiliations that are coming along. So again, we have 32 teams, so that means 160.
180 players, I
No,
think.
100 can't be right. 160.
160. I don't know how to
160
count.
players. Yeah,
You're right.
160
My bad.
players.
I don't know how to count.
The point of that, what I'm trying to say is there's 160 rosters coming along there. So let's take a look at how that 160 works out in terms of affiliations. So top of the list is Inhumans at 24 players. Now, this is interesting because there's been a lot of podcasting going on recently coming out of the United States about how overrated the Inhumans are. It's just not, and the big LVO event didn't have a lot of Inhumans players at all. Whereas in Europe, they are considered top notch and like almost a must have on the rosters. Now, this is one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here. Where do you to give us some of the thoughts that you have seen back and forth to kind of justify this thinking?
I think there's definitely a divide between North America and Europe at the moment on who the top, like single top affiliation is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think most will agree that like Apocalypse and Inhuman are currently on their own, like as top dogs of the current meta, as we can see like them being represented for the event. I think in North America, Apocalypse is definitely more popular than Inhumans, but I think like both are extremely strong and probably need to be looked at just from having like such consistent win rates for months on end now. So they're clearly, in my book, the top two dogs. I feel you have like 2 or 3 affiliations right under them who are not quite as strong, but still very dominant. So we see, like, for me, the top 4 affiliations of the event were not a surprise at all. Like, I feel Inhumans, Apocalypse, Criminal Syndicate, and Avengers are like clearly the top 4 best teams at the moment. And then afterwards, you see it break down a little more. And that's where things get interesting.
Yeah. So I think you're right. That the top 4 are essentially the same number. Humans is technically first at 24, but APOC, Criminals, and Avengers are at 23.
It's 23, like,
each,
are not that far behind.
No, yeah. So, I mean, you could call that essentially the top 4 being equivalent. But you're absolutely right. The next grouping, the big numbers, the only ones that are double digits are Midnight Suns at 16, Wakanda at 14, Guardians at 11. And then after that, you get into single digits and quite a number of them. I feel like Wakanda is definitely in not popular, but it is quite strong. Midnight Suns seems to be making a resurgence now, but they were supposed to be taking over the meta at the very beginning of the year when their new models came out, and then just fell off the face of the earth somehow. And Guardians never recovered from CGR. So those are my thoughts. What about yours?
I feel like Midnight Suns took somewhat of a hit from the Crisis change for the most part. That came like a little later this year. And that's why I think they fell down like a little. I still think they're very strong. And I think one of the reasons they're here, and same as Wakanda, is not because they're not strong or not as popular, but because I feel some of their models or the way the affiliation plays is a little more contested in team events. Like, a lot of Inhumans want to be bringing like Dr. Voodoo, or Criminal Syndicates, especially under Shadowlands Daredevil wants to play in Contu. So there's an argument for breaking up Midnight Suns for their affiliated pieces. And I feel kind of the same with Wakanda, right? Like, you have King T, even OG Black Panther, Okoye, which you can easily divide into other affiliations like Avengers. So I feel those like take a hit from either their own rosters being split up, or in the case of Wakanda, I feel because there's so many similar alter egos, they rely a lot on their splashes, and it's something that's harder to do in a team setting. And I don't feel that's like representation of Wakanda not being as strong. It's just that like in a team setting, you have to maybe make more concessions than a team like in Humans or Apocalypse, and that's probably why they're not as popular.
I agree. I think that's a really good summary. What about Guardians, though? They, like I said, they never seem to have recovered from CGR, and yet here they are with 11 players.
Yeah, they're still in like the quote unquote most popular affiliations, because I feel like they're still fairly strong enough and are again not too over reliant on their splashes. Like if you break down the Guardians lists, here most of them are single affiliation with a few duals and triples. Like we have some Asgard and Guardians, which is a very distinct split. There's even a Guardians and X-Men player in the pool. So like because they're not as reliant on their splashes to function, or like usually they splash one or two big key pieces, they're very easy to slot in a team setting, and I think that gives them a pretty big kicker, especially when you have like three or four self-contained teams like in Humans, Apocalypse, CS, and Avengers.
Right.
So like they're a good shoe-in for like your last team that's not taxing any of your other affiliations.
Yep. Totally get it. Okay. The next groupings are respectable numbers, and I think ones that we probably are quite not surprised to see. Asgard, Web Warriors. Oh, sorry, I missed X-Men. X-Men, Asgard, Web Warriors, Spider Foes, and Defenders. But the last item in this group that have at least 5 rosters in it in the event is Dormammu. What do you make of Dormammu?
I think Dormammu's been having a resurgence lately as like a light splash for some affiliations who have a hard time dealing with lower threat. So we've seen like notable players like Mike DeLuca bring in a Dormammu flex within Humans, just because like in Humans doesn't play super well as 16, and like those lower threats where Dormammu performs usually pretty well. So it's a very light flex that doesn't have a huge opportunity cost in terms of models, and that can help you get out of some certain dire situations. So like to help with your lower threat levels if you're not super comfortable there.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. The affiliations that are not being used, I think, are also interesting. We've got Black Order, Brotherhood, Hellfire Club, Sentinels, Thralls of Dracula, and then unaffiliated. So not that many, to be honest. It's 5. 5 affiliations aren't being used. I don't think any of those are a surprise, except for maybe Brotherhood, which
I don't think Brotherhood or even Hellfire Club, at least in my book, is that big of a surprise, as most of their good models are shared with Apocalypse, and I feel that's kind of why you see X-Men at like their lowest they've almost ever been.
Yeah.
Like they haven't been performing terribly well this year. Like it's arguably the year they've been performing the worst ever. And they share half of the roster with one of the top meta teams at the moment. So I feel that's why you see very few X-Men, very few Brotherhood. Like most mutant affiliations are a lot lower than they used to if you consider Apocalypse. And I think that's also part of the reason you don't see that many webs. I feel like not having the new models and having a hard matchup into Apocalypse and Humans, both of which are like the top meta teams at the moment, makes them pretty unpopular in the current setting. Not saying that they're not good, but that they have a harder time than they usually have.
Okay, cool. Of note, though, X-Force, New Mutants, Sentinels, and X-Force all made it into at least one roster of the event, which is fun, really fun.
Yeah, Weapon X is played by the other Canadian team, actually, which I'm really glad to see represented.
Yeah, me too. It is fun. I played a game with them just this past Saturday, and it was against them rather, and it was great. What else jumps out at you when you take a look at this roster breakdown?
I think there's a few teams that I'm surprised to see very few of.
Mhm.
Like, for me, Shield is also something that's usually pretty self-contained, and having only two Shield players on two English teams was kind of surprising, because
Yep.
Namor is still a very good model. They still have a load of very good affiliation cards, and most of their models are not contested by any of the top four teams.
Mhm.
So this was definitely a big surprise for me to see so many few Shield lists. Um, I think a lot of like the big dogs you saw last year not being super represented here makes sense considering the scenario shift with the disappearance of E shapes and 15 threat. So like seeing Cabal barely there, same for X Force, even Convocation only having two players this time around, even though they're a very strong affiliation. Um, it's kind of surprising, but not that much at the same time. I think we see also a huge fall from Asgard, but I do think there's still a very strong team out there.
Yeah. It's so fun though when you think about it. Between the crisis changes and then these kind of affiliations that soak up other models outside of their affiliations, quote unquote,
Yep.
like Apocalypse. It really is interesting how the meta kind of reshakes itself up and finds new patterns as a result.
Yeah, that's why I think also like you have your Spider Foes and Defenders who like who had bigger showings last year,
Hmm.
but sharing so many models with Midnight Suns and Criminal Syndicates is like means that you often can't bring both on a single team.
Right. Okay, let's look at the breakdown of characters. Um, Remember, we have 32 teams, and you can't share characters across players within a team. So the most you can have of any particular character is 32.
Yeah.
And top of the list, two models at top of the list at 31 each. So one team didn't take either one of these, not the same team necessarily. It is Baron Zemo 1 and Shang-Chi.
I think no one is surprised by these models. They have been like top dogs of their respective threats for a very long time. And I think like Baron Zemo is always at the top or near the top of every taken models list, especially in a team format. Same for Shang-Chi. I think you're hard pressed to not play these models in any of your five lists.
Yeah. I mean, they basically are good no matter where they find themselves in.
Yep.
Yeah. I would think the next guy, so this bunch at 29, Toad, Beta Ray Bill, and Black Cat. Toad, he got nerfed. And that nerf, made him a little bit weaker in my eyes for Apocalypse players to take. And yet here he is at nearly fully completed, number of teams taking him. What's going on?
Yeah, I think with the amount of Apocalypse team, like even though yes, he is weaker, he's still a core component for Apocalypse,
Mhm.
as you need one of your two threats to be able to play your four horsemen at 17. And I think Toad is definitely a better model than Honey Badger, even though he's been nerfed. Uh, so that's definitely a big part of it.
Okay. What about Beta Ray Bill, though? Not that many Asgard players, and who's using him so much?
Uh, Probably Criminal Syndicate. I feel like being a very tanky model with displacement. He sees play there. He can see play as well in Avengers Under Steve 1, where you get his throne line every round. Or in Human, just as a very high end value model. So I think Bill fits kind of that Zemo slot where he's just a good model that you can slot in most teams.
Okay. I'm going to run down ones that are really obvious and just pause on the ones that I think are interesting. You stop me if you feel differently,
Yeah.
okay? Right. Next, we have Hulk at 28, Magic at 28, Gorgon at 28, Okoye 27. I'm going to stop with Okoye. Why Okoye so popular?
I feel she's really there to protect a lot of your key pieces. Like she's good in Criminal Syndicate. She's good in very tall Avengers lists. Anyone playing like large attrition or like big fragile glass cannons, like we saw 14, 15 Wakanda players. I feel to protect your King T there, she's a good piece as well. Like Okoye, like your two threats are amongst the models that are in highest demand for team formats, as like two threats let you play with threat value and like choose a different amount of models you can field. So I feel she's still a premium two threat for her role of like being able to protect another model.
Okay. And you know what's great about the game right now? All the twos seem to have a very specialized role now. And so
Yeah.
they're not easy choices any longer, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I think having those specialized roles help them fit more clearly into certain game plans or certain lists. And I feel
Mhm.
that's why you see like the best twos for a certain role be taken in high numbers.
Yeah. Okay, carrying on. Dr. Voodoo at 27, Beast at 27, Bullseye at 26, Spectacular Spider-Man at 26. So that's Specky. We only had 8 Web Warriors? Did I
8
get
Web
that?
Warriors, yeah.
Yeah. So who is taking Specky? I can tell you I like him in Criminal Syndicate for Kingpin.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've got it exactly right. I think as criminals, one of the biggest holes in criminals is their 3 threats. As after Black Cat, like you don't have that many choices, and with Echo not being available for WTC, I feel with how few webs they are for the event, Spectacular being both tanky, having access to displacement, being mobile, plays the Kingpin plan very, very well. And I expect him to be to be taken out of affiliation mostly by Criminal Syndicate.
Yep, makes sense. What about the next one? Spider-Man Miles Morales, 26. Same story. Not that many Web Warriors, yet here he is at 26.
He's still a very good model. You can play him with Reserve Member under Steve 1, where he gets a webline kick for 7 dice on round 1. He's still a very good value model. Like, he has a steal, he has displacement, he's kind of tanky. Like, I feel Web Warriors is definitely one of those affiliation you can easily plunder from, as when you're not bringing them, all of their good pieces like Black Cat, Ghost Spider, Spectacular, Miles are still very, very strong models. So you can plug them in a lot of your lists if you're not bringing webs.
Right. Okay. Gambit at 26, I think is a lot because
it's a very Apocalypse pick.
yeah. But what about? You're the only Steve 3, so I suppose that's the only other place.
We do have Gambit, but that's like kind of it, right? There's 23 Apocalypse players, 26 Gambits.
Yeah.
So like he's in some of the X-Men list and Apocalypse and in our Avengers list.
Right. Wong at 26, Encantu at 26, Rhino at 25, Red Skull 2 at 25. I think he's gotten a resurgence.
Yeah, definitely. He's seen play in Midnight Suns a lot. In the Dormammu Flex we talked about earlier, like he's a very strong and popular model at the moment. So I'm not surprised to see him being taken so much.
Mm-hmm. Lockjaw 25, Sam Wilson at 24, Black Bolt 24, Black Widow 1 at 24. Tell me more.
Yeah. I think she's, if you're playing Apocalypse and Inhumans, she's definitely the second best scenario 2 threat. So if you're playing Inhumans, she's probably the one you're looking at after Toad if you don't have access to Toad. Because she's semi-tanky, she's a long mover. She plays a secure game surprisingly well. She's not super power hungry either. So I feel like she's probably your second best scenario 2 threat after Toad. And that's why she's taken.
Okay. I'm going to go down to the 20s. Where am I? Karnak 24, APOC 23, Luke Cage 22, Colossus 22, Quicksilver 21, Mighty Thor, Lady Jane 21, I-Hulk 21, Nebula 20, King T'Challa at 20. Tell me, have people finally figured out that this guy's good even outside of Wakanda?
Yeah, definitely. Like, he's just an extremely strong piece, and I think probably the real thing that's gatekeeping him is the price of his box. And
yeah, okay, fair.
Like, because he comes in a very expensive Rivals panel, but I feel like he's a extremely strong model that's like he's just he hits so hard for 5 threats. It's just really scary, and he's super mobile as well. So that's definitely a big plus.
Flush with power at all times. God. All right, Namor at 20, Kingpin at 20, and Loki 2, Prince of Lies at 20. That rounds us out. So I'm going to skip down to the next one that I think is of interest, which is Thor 1, Prince of Asgard at 15. What's going on with this?
Yeah, that's kind of surprising because I feel like he's probably a model you see more both as an answer to Apocalypse for Avengers and Asgard. So like if you're playing Asgard, he's probably not your best leader, but being able to answer conditions is a way to deal with Apocalypse surprisingly well. And under Steve 1, he gets to charge and stagger every round if he gets some damage in. So I feel like that's probably where you see him the most.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I can see that. The next one that strikes me is Juggernaut, where you said there's no Brotherhood, but here he is at 8 rosters.
Yeah, I think Juggernaut is definitely like probably mostly taken as a CS piece, just because he's mobile, he's tanky, he has displacement. He just fits on the Kingpin plan really, really well. And with Abomination sometimes being taken by Midnight Suns, he fills in that gap very well.
Okay. I'm going down the rest of this list here. Ooh, Venom got taken 4 times. Go. Yes. Fun. Frankenstein's Monster at 4. I just mentioned he was speaking to me. And Heimdall made it into 4 rosters. Okay. What any overall thoughts that you have about the breakdown of characters?
No, I feel like character-wise, it's fairly consequent with the affiliations we're seeing. I don't think there's like a lot of big surprises in the choice of characters made.
Yeah. Which is fun. I mean, I think if the splashes are an important part of the game, but they're not the overwhelming part of the game, which is, I think, a good thing to make affiliations relevant.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. Team Texas cards. So here now we're unrestricted again. So the maximum number you can have is 160 for the 160 players. Right on top with 156 players, brace for impact. No surprise. But who are these 4 rogue players? Yes. But we need to buy the beers, don't we?
Yeah, they are brave souls, braver than I would be.
If you are one of the 4 players, do shout out on the Across the Bifrost Discord so we can acknowledge your greatness. Next up at 116 is a recalibration matrix. So not a restricted card, I might point out.
No, I'm not surprised, and I'm kind of surprised because for the people who know or are familiar with my uptakes, I am a big downer on Recal. I think it's a pretty bad card. Just because I think it has a very high opportunity cost for no guaranteed effect. You can be spending 3 powers and a tactics card to basically do nothing.
Yeah.
And that's something I really, really dislike. But it is the most popular by far generic card. So that's why we see it here. I think the trend of tactics card we see are basically restricted, the 2 or 3 good unrestricted unaffiliated card, then it comes down to character cards really quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, I think, a great state for the game. Personally, I love this that you don't have to. You take cards to enhance the character that you're taking, as opposed to just having these generically broken cards.
Yeah, agreed.
To that point, I said Recal was at 116 players. It drops like a rock after that. Survival is next at just 82, so it's half the players, more or less. Sacrifice is at 75 players, and Warpath is at 56. And I'll just say Patch Up is at 41, because after that, it's in the 40s, or drops down lower. And 40s is only 1/4 of the player base.
Yeah, and then right after Patch Up, you start falling into character cards with Heroes for Hire, Journey Through Limbo, Key Mastery. So you see straight up after you're done with the restricted cards and the 2 or 3 good unaffiliated cards, you go straight up into cards that are taken by the most popular models here, namely Shang-Chi, Luke Cage, Magic, and Baron Zemo.
Yeah. So to your point, Fallback is the next one that's not attached like that at 36 players. And then going down, unless I miss somebody, is Instant Recovery at 18 players. Yeah, that's it. So wild. It's really wild. You know what's not on here, which I happened to take, and it was a really tough choice for me, actually. Instead of Fallback, I ended up with Indomitable. And that's not even, that's 15 or less because it's not being shown.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a consensus for Brace being the best restricted card, but after that, like the second one is really up for grabs depending on what affiliation you're bringing or what are your specific needs.
Okay. I'm looking at gems really quick. There's one power gem, which somebody, Ronan, put on Ronan. Go for you. Go you, pal. But then it says 3 space gems, but I don't see them listed. So where would they be attached to?
I think space gems, you're either probably looking at Loki 1 or Ebony Maw. Like we saw some Convocation players.
That's what it is. It's for characters that have not been shown because they're 3 or less, and that's who the space ones happen to be on. Yeah, got it. Okay. All right. Crises. I really wish Longshanks would break these up by secures and extracts to make this a little easier, but we'll have to try to work it out. So top, again, these are unrestricted. So 160 could be the highest number a crisis could take. And the highest was only, in quotes, 71. So less than half of the players took it. So that means there are some strong crises, but there's none that are like must-haves. In the meta.
None that are in at least half of the list. Like everything's under half.
Yeah, which is great. Great job, AMG.
I think it shows for a good diversity of crises.
For sure. So the first one at 71 players is Inhumans Deploy Advanced Weaponry, which is, I think, a really good one. I mean, I don't want to say generically, but it's like a straightforward scenario, let's say.
Yeah. It's 4 points on a midline at 18 threat. Like it's as even of an extract as you can pick, right? And I think that's why it's the most popular crisis. It's just like it's even. It's a threat level most people can play comfortably on. There are 4 points on the midline, and the drawback / advantage of the crisis is almost non-existent. It's basically an energy Montesi beam, so it's like fairly neutral, just 4 tokens on a board, and I think that's why it's the most popular.
Yeah. Now, I'm just calling up Jarvis's protocol so we can look up some stuff in a moment. The next one, which is actually kind of fun, understandable, but it is a little bit notable considering how it was king for so long. His good old Fear Grips is only at second place at 65 players, so not too far behind, but still, nonetheless, unseeded after dominance for many years.
Yeah. And I feel like Hammers is a crisis both Apocalypse and Inhumans are pretty strong on. And they're just well-loved crises overall. Like Hammer has been popular since its inception, and I think it's going to continue to be popular as long as it's there.
Right. Okay. The next third one is Deadly Legacy Virus at 56. And what I want to point out about these 3 is that they're all attrition focused.
They're all asset. Not necessarily attrition focused, but I feel because like Inhuman Weaponry and Hammers are like still 4 VPs on the board, so you could argue for like to play them in a crisis in scenario setting. I think the most important aspect of the top 3 crises is that they're all assets. Inhumans have been terrorizing at least Europe and part of North America. I feel assets being the most popular crisis. Crises are definitely showing the impact of Inhumans and specifically Terragenesis on the current meta.
Interesting. Okay. Then we drop down. I'm just going for extracts by eye here. And the next one is Scientific Samples. 47
Another
players.
Asset.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And 4 VPs on the table for that one. What's the next one?
Unexpected Guests. So 2 Down Under, which is the 4 guests that move you around. So the first civilians.
Okay.
And they move you around, like, again, pretty similar to Inhuman Weaponry. They're a fairly neutral crisis, as there are 4 points on the board, 2 on each sides of the map. So it's very easy to just pick up and like play an average game of MCP with 2 players being able to pick up their extracts on their sides of the board. But I do think it being a civilian as opposed to an asset gives that a drop in popularity.
Yeah. So there are 42 players playing it. Now there's only, in quotes, 24 Inhuman players. So there are only half of these players are Inhuman players and half are other people that have taken the punt on this and, dealing with the risk that comes with playing a civilian.
And then afterwards, it falls down pretty quick. You have like Montesi Formula at 30-something.
38.
38.
Yeah.
And then scrolls, and then scrolls at 31, alien ship at 27, Terrigen canisters not far under, and cubes being the least taken crisis.
Yeah. What do you think of that? Because it used to be quite popular, not like Fear Grips levels, but still quite high. Now it's only 17.
I think with the speed of the game currently, and just like how fast scenario teams can get away with points, namely both Apocalypse and Inhumans, it's kind of scary to play 5 extracts. And with the disappearance of a lot of safe grabs, having a central extract when you don't have prio can be kind of hard for a lot of team to deal with.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. All right. Going back to the top of the list to look at secures. The top secure in 4th place is Riot Spark. Good old Riot Spark at 51, but equal to it at 51 is Mayor Fisk. That was
definitely a big surprise for me when I started looking at the stats, as there are like on the exact opposite end of the spectrum. Like Extremis is a very wide secure that can heal you, and Mayor Fisk is about as fighty, is like arguably the most fighty secure we currently have in the game. So I feel like it's definitely split into 2 camps, like people playing scenario secures and attrition secures, and that's why you see those being like represented at the top.
Okay. It should be said that at 50 players, so essentially the same, is Wedding Party, which is the other one that has a similar configuration as Mayor Fisk. So maybe for the same reasons that you just mentioned?
Yeah, and then right under we have Scoundrels, right? Fitting in with the Extremists. Like, I think those 4 secures are definitely the big contender or trendsetter, like as far as scenario or attrition teams go.
Yeah, that's a good point. So you're saying Riot Sparks and Scoundrels are on the scenario side of the equation in the game, and Mayor Fisk and Wedding Party on the attrition side of the game. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Then what's next?
Mcron and Deadline to Destruction, both at 41, which I feel are like both mid-rangey secures. Like both can score surprisingly fast with 4 VPs on the board, but they're like very narrow shapes, which invite to a lot of brawling. So I feel like for those affiliations that are not on the super scenario side of the spectrum or not the super attrition side of the spectrum, they're probably the crisis they're looking at.
Okay. And then we have, I'm just going to mention the last one because we're running out of time here. The last secure, as always, is indeed...
It's always Deadly Meteors.
No, it's a Spider Infected.
Oh, yeah. Spider Infected.
That's extract. Sorry. Yeah. Deadly Meteors. Right. Yeah. Always on the bottom somehow. It is at 27. So
it's a super fun crisis. Like, I wish more people would play it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Asgard loves to play it, and then I don't know who else.
I think like Avengers can play it super well. I think Wakanda, arguably, more attrition-led CS can do as well. Like if you're going mostly Shadowlands.
I agree. Yes, you're right about that. Yeah. Okay, but yeah, still all the way down at 27. Sad times. I'm going to take a quick look at advanced statistics to see if there's anything else there. There it goes.
No, not currently.
Not yet. Okay. All right. So that brings us to the end of our review. Any other thoughts before we wrap up? About the meta, I mean, based on what you see here.
I think we are probably and arguably the most settled meta for WTC. Like the clear winners are the clear winners and no one is really surprised. Like if we look at the past years, we always had like 1 or 2 teams, but now like the top 4s are really cemented as the top 4 affiliations. And I feel like it's probably like the game that's going to be the most well established and well put, but I think it's where the pairing process and like how teams evaluate matchup is going to be the most impactful. Yeah.
Cool. Wonderful. So if this has whetted your appetite, again, follow along with the event, which happens on the 25th and 26th of October via Longshanks. And I don't know if they're streaming this year. I think
I don't think so.
Yeah, sadly.
But maybe we're going to get surprised.
Oh, that'd be nice. If this has whetted your appetite, though, and you want to play in a team tournament, you could come along to the Across the Bifrost Team Championship, which happens in January, 10th to 11th of January. We have one team left open. We have 23 teams recruited, and we have room for 24. So you could join us there, and that will be with the benefit of all the new characters that have been talked about recently, the new Defenders characters and the new Web Warriors characters. But I have some news I'm probably not supposed to share, but I'm going to share it anyway to get everybody excited. I can tell you, I will not say much more, but I can tell you that next year's WTC will definitely be in a different location. But that's all I'm going to say.
Ooh, that's interesting. Looking forward to learn where it's going to be.
Yeah, so it'll be revealed on the Sunday of the event after the event is over during the award ceremony. So stay tuned to find out where it is next year and likely what time of year it'll be, which will more or less be about the same time of year it usually is. But the specifics will come out then, and you can already start making your plans to come, because not only is it great gaming and exciting to be in such a huge event, the social aspect of it is can't be beat. Isn't that right?
Yeah, for me, it's always half the fun of these conventions and type of events. Like, you're there to play game, but you're also there to share and enjoy the hobby you have with so many other people. And I feel like that's like half of the fun of the events is like going to lunch and debriefing and talking about your games and sharing a few drinks with friends. And it's half of the reason you attend these events in my book.
Yeah. Totally. And especially now with the internet allowing people to get together so often and communicate with one another, if not playing virtual games, it becomes even more poignant to meet these people in real life.
Yeah, like as fun as TTS is, there's really nothing like playing in person and just hanging out with your friends, playing some miniatures game. It's like, it's so fun. That's why we do this.
Yes, exactly. All right, everybody. We want to quickly thank all of our Patreons. The Patreons help make this happen. It's going out to the public as an emergency. Also, thank you to our lovely producer who took on this assignment at the last minute and agreed graciously to donate some time unexpectedly to do this. And so thank you to her, and also, again, to the Patrons. Do join us on the Across the Bifrost Discord to tell us what you think about these stats and some of our thoughts. But mostly, thank you, VodkaBlitz, for coming on. It was great to hear your voice again, and it's made me even more jazzed that in just 2 weeks we're going to be all together again.
Thank you very much for having me, and looking forward to see you in Copenhagen.
Brilliant. All right, until next time, cheers and happy gaming.